They say that when the last war cry fades, and the field lies quiet beneath the ravens, a gate appears where no gate stood before. A hall carved from stormlight, a roof made from shields, 1,000 spears shining like dawn. Some claim only the bravest may enter. Others whisper that no one truly knows who chooses, or why. But what was Valhalla truly? What world believed in a hall beyond death? What power did this promise hold over warriors who walked willingly into danger? And why did so many dream of a place they would never see unless they fell? For myths are not born from nothing. They rise from the people who first believed. What kind of world would need a heaven that only opens for the slain? To understand Valhalla, you must first stand in the world that dreamed it. A land of hard winters, deep seas, and fragile harvests, where danger lived close and tomorrow was never promised. In such a world, courage was not a choice. It was a shield against despair. Villages clung to rocky coasts and narrow fields. Longhouses creaked under snow and wind. Stories filled the cold nights. Stories of Odin, the one-eyed wanderer. Stories of Thor's thunder. Stories of the Valkyries who rode between life and death. These tales were not entertainment alone. They were maps of meaning, offered to people who might never travel farther than the next fjord, but whose imaginations roamed the 9 worlds. To people who lived beside hardship, death was never distant. So they asked themselves, if I must die, how can my death matter? From that question, a warrior's paradise began to take shape. A place where a lifetime of struggle could end in honor, not in silence. So who first spoke the name Valhalla? We cannot know. But the idea spread like fire across the north, carried on the tongues of traders, raiders, and poets. A hall in Asgard, Odin's hall, the place where the slain might rise again. Its name meant the Hall of the Fallen, not saints, not rulers, but warriors. In a world where kings and jarls claimed glory in life, Valhalla promised that even a farmer who took up axe and shield, even a poor man in a worn mail shirt, might stand shoulder to shoulder with heroes after death. This was not a peaceful paradise. It was an answer to the fear of dying unknown. Only those who met death with weapon in hand were chosen. The rest passed quietly into hell, a realm neither evil nor glorious. Simply the place where most souls went, where ancestors waited in a shadowed, ordinary afterlife. The Valkyries became the sorters of the dead, those shimmering riders from the ridge. Their choice shaped how the living saw their fate. If the bravest dead could dine with gods, then bravery itself became a path to eternity, and fear could be bent into something fierce and shining. So what power does a promise have when you carry it into battle? Valhalla was not merely a reward. It was a weapon made of belief. It told warriors that if they did not run, if they did not break, their death would not be empty. Imagine a shield wall tightening. Imagine the thunder of feet. Imagine fear crawling up your spine. Your pulse hammers in your ears. You catch the tremble in someone's final whispered prayer. You know the next heartbeat could be your last. Valhalla turned that fear into resolve. A warrior who believed in the hall was harder to break, harder to sway, harder to defeat. Leaders invoked it in their speeches. Skalds sang of it so often that boys grew up half in this world and half in the one beyond. Parents whispered it into their children's dreams. A death in battle could become a doorway, and that made it easier to face. Not only for those who fought, but for those who stayed behind and needed to believe their loss had meaning. If you've come this far, then this journey was meant for you. Here on Chronica Arcana, we follow the paths of ancient stories, from the unseen chooser of the fallen to the hall where warriors rise again. So listen closely. Valhalla's doors still stand open, and its story is far from over. So what kind of place must a hall be to make death look like a victory? They described Valhalla as immense, its rafters lost in shadow, its roof made of shields, and its walls bright with spears. In this hall feasted the Einherjar, the chosen dead. Each morning, they marched out to a wide plain and fought one another in glorious battle. Steel rang, shields splintered, bodies fell, and each evening they rose unbroken, their wounds erased. They feasted on a boar reborn each dawn. They drank mead from a goat whose milk never ran dry. Around them, songs pounded like drums, telling of old battles and future doom. Here, no one grew old, frail, or forgotten. Every day was the height of strength. And watching it all was Odin, not as a comforting father, but as a warlord preparing an army. For the stories claim that one day, at Ragnarok, the Einherjar would march beside him into the final battle at the end of the world. Valhalla was not comfort, it was recruitment. So what signs did the living claim to glimpse of the hall beyond death? The Norse did not believe anyone could reach Valhalla while alive, but their stories and sagas left traces of what they thought might lie beyond that final breath. In the poetic Edda, warriors speak of hearing Gjallarhorn in dreams, a sound meant only for the world's ending. In the saga of Hakon the Good, fallen kings are welcomed into Odin's hall. And in Egil's saga, men on the edge of death describe figures waiting in the battlefield mist. Skalds sang of such moments, warriors dying with sudden calm, as if seeing something others could not. Some claimed to hear distant horns or footsteps overhead, signs, they thought, that the choosers of the fallen had arrived. Around winter fires, families whispered of those who longed too fiercely for Valhalla. Men who rushed ahead seeking glory, certain the hall awaited them, and of others who dreamed of Valhalla only to wake shaken, saying the doors had stayed shut. None of these were records. They were reflections of something deeper. The fear that bravery might go unnoticed. The fear that a death in battle might still mean nothing. The fear that the promise of the hall might not be meant for you. So why does Valhalla still linger in our stories long after the last skald fell silent? Because it speaks to something deep within us. The desire for a death that means something. The wish that courage is noticed. The hope that we might be remembered for how we faced our darkest moments. Across centuries, Valhalla has been reshaped into paintings, into poetry, into the modern idea of a warrior's reward. It appears in novels, films, and games. Whenever a character speaks of a great hall beyond death or raises a drink to Valhalla for the fallen, even those who know the sagas only as shadows still speak of going to Valhalla as a way of honoring the brave, a way of saying, your courage will not be forgotten. Its symbols endure: the hall, the shields, the feast, the riders who choose the fallen. But the truth is simpler. Valhalla survived because it answered a question we have never stopped asking. How will we be remembered when our voice has fallen silent? Valhalla is a beautiful vision, a hall of light, a feast without end. But behind that vision lingered a simple truth. Many lives were lived with courage, but many more besides went unrecognized. Valhalla itself was never real, but the fear that created it, the fear of being forgotten and the longing for a story that outlives us, that part has always been true. A life is not measured by imagined holes in the sky, but by the good we leave in others and by those who remember us after we're gone. This was Chronica Arcana, the story of Valhalla. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it helps us bring more myths and legends to life. And if you'd like to continue your journey, the Myth and Magic playlist awaits. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next myth.